What's up guys, Ryan here from MudGunner, and today I wanted to show you how I set up my rifle lights on a variety of different rifles. So I definitely have a preference on how I do this. You'll notice a lot of them are set up very similar. I'm just going to be talking about some of the main brands I use, how I set them up, and then just some other options for you. I did do a video earlier this year. We were out shooting in the desert and I talked about my 5 favorite rifle light brands, and we shot out to about 200 yards in the dark. So if you want to check that video out, again, I posted it earlier this year. But yeah, today we're just going to be talking about how I set them up on guns. And I have a variety of setups here. Again, you'll notice most of them are very similar, but I'm going to start with this one. So this is my Sig Virtus. It's a 5.56 11.5 inch barrel. And I run, brand-wise, I run a lot of Cloud Defensive lights. I run a lot of Surefire and Mod Light. Those I would say are my favorite. I also like Stream lights, and I do like Inforce lights, but I currently don't own any Inforce lights. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I tend to run a lot of lights with pressure pads, and you can do with or without. I'm just going to explain why I like the pressure pads. So this is a Cloud Defensive Rain, and they come with their own pressure pad. They've upgraded them since, because mine all have a momentary switch or a constant on. So basically with this, if you apply pressure on this one, it's just momentary. So when you let go, it's off. Or you have a constant on where you click it and it's on, click it and it's off. And then from the light, you can either apply pressure on the back softly and it'll turn on, or you can press it in and it'll stay on. So I tend to run a lot of setups like this, and it doesn't really matter what grip you have on there. It could be a vertical grip, angled grip, or no grip. I tend to run my hand kind of like a C-clamp. You'll notice a lot of vertical grips, you'll see people hold it like this. You'll see the rail. It's going to just be personal preference. I tend to hold it more C-clamp. That's where you're kind of wrapping your hand around. But I'll just run my thumb on the left side until I'm ready to use my light. So, and obviously if you're shooting during the day, you don't need that. So I would just run it on the left side. So that's my personal preference. And why I like running it on top is, one, it just tends to be more comfortable. If you have it on the left side and you're slinging it down, it can potentially press against your body and ND your light. So that's negligently discharge your light, which if you're trying to be stealthy, not a good idea. But on top, you really don't run the chance of hitting it on accident. And with these, they have like a little shroud around them, so you can't really accidentally hit it. You have to apply pressure directly in the center. So I like that. But yeah, I like running it on top because, again, when I'm not using it, I can just run my hand on the left side. It's not in the way. You have the option of running it offhand. So if I'm right-handed, I tend to run all my lights on the right side, so that when my left hand's over here, nothing's in the way. But I still have the option, if I needed to shoot left-handed, I could run it like that. And then if I ever let anyone borrow my gun, which I actually ran into this last year, I got invited out to a shoot here in Arizona with a bunch of guys. Ian from Recoil TV was out there. He's the guy that won the first season of Top Shot, in case you didn't know. And they asked me to bring out a few different rifles for people to borrow during that range match. And I think there was 1 or 2 left-handed people. So my setups are actually pretty nice because they're all pretty ambi. I run ambi safety selectors, charging handles. Quick detach slings are nice because I could just pop it on and off from either side. So this gun specifically got used by a left-handed person. And I mean, we were shooting during the day, but the whole setup is left-hand friendly other than it ejects out of the right side. So running it on top, you do have the option to run ambi, or if you are left-handed, obviously you'll probably want to run it on top. But yeah, just another pro of running it on top is my thing. And then it also makes it streamlined with most of my guns because they're all on top, depending if I run Cloud Defensive or Surefire. I'll show you a Surefire setup right here. So this is my Q Honey Badger, and what's nice about this one, this would also be a night vision setup. So I have a light and a laser. So pressure pad is still on top, and you'll notice I don't really have any rail sections to mount it on the side. It's not even mounted to the rail, it is just taped onto this hand wrap that I have on here, but it's solid, it's not going anywhere. So this front button is the light, the back button is the light and the laser. And the way I have it set up, I can't even ND this light because it's off right now. I'd have to turn it to white light, and then I can turn it on. And then the back one, again, is the light and the laser, but the laser is currently off right now. So, and it has a cap, so I'd have to move the cap over, turn it on. But yeah, that's a different video for night vision setups. But again, I still run it on top, and if you're running a light and a laser, it's just easy on top with both of them. So yeah, that's where I like it. So that's just another version. And then also we have this one right here. So this is my Galil Ace. I am running a Surefire light and then a Holosun laser. Now this Holosun laser is visible only. So right now, if I hit this on the back, it's on. If I hit the front, it's just the light. So makes it nice. And this is, I've done a video on this a few times, but this is like my Galil RPK setup. So its setup is a mini RPK on a Galil. But yeah, still like running the pressure pad. And then again, you'll notice it's on the right side of the gun. And as far as placement, I try to push it as far forward as I can without really being past the muzzle device. You'll notice on this one, since the rail is further back, I can't even put it to the muzzle device. I'd have to get a light bar to push it out even further. But I would say this is ideally where I want it. I am planning on adding a suppressor on here, so then at that point, I might get a light bar, which pushes your light out another couple inches. So I do like it where it's currently at on that one though. And you'll notice the same thing on the Honey Badger. As far as placement goes, you're gonna really have to play around with certain setups. So like this one, it is exactly the way I can have it because I have this hand wrap, I have a laser, and then I have a light. I don't even have room for iron sights on this gun anymore, but the laser would be my second aiming device, and the main one would be the RMR on here, the Trijicon Red Dot. So you'll notice my light, it's just slightly behind my suppressor, which is fine because anything in front, it's gonna get more of the blast, which this one doesn't have much anyways because it's a suppressed 300 blackout. But yeah, what tends to happen, and I don't notice it on this, is when you have it next to your muzzle device, it's gonna get blasted every time you shoot, and that's fine as long as it's a durable light, but you might have to wipe the lens down every once in a while because it will get covered in carbon. You especially notice this on pistols. Even if the pistol light is past the muzzle, it'll still get covered in carbon like it's like being blasted right next to it. So just pay attention to your lights. I notice they get dimmer the more you shoot them. That could be either from the recoil or just the carbon buildup on the lens. Even when I wipe it down though, I notice some of my older lights are not as bright as my newer lights. So just something to notate, but yeah, they're built to last as long as you do good stuff. Like I don't know all the cheap Amazon specials, but I run name brand lights and they hold up pretty well. As far as the cheapest light option I would go, the cheapest I would personally go would be like Streamlight or again Inforce. They're both good options. Streamlight, you get really powerful lights for the same price as a lot of Inforce lights, and you still get a pressure pad. So this one is my Colt M481 clone. I'm actually going to be changing this light setup with an old Surefire light setup that came through our store with a pressure pad. So just know this one's not going to stay on here much longer, but I run these on other guns as well. So Streamlight you can get for sub 200 bucks. The Cloud Defensive lights are unfortunately about 400 bucks. Same thing with Mod Light and same thing with Surefire. Unfortunately, they are expensive, but if you want to spend less than $200, I would look at Streamlight or Inforce. Below those, I don't really have any good options for you. I would say the lowest I would personally go is Streamlight or Inforce. But yeah, this one also has a pressure pad on top, and you'll notice it's a pretty bright white light. So you have a momentary pad, like that's kind of a bar, or you have a button that's constant on. Now with this one, you cannot turn it on from just the back. There's no button on the back of the light, it's just the top part. But again, me running it on the right side with the pressure pad up top, I can just hold it and apply pressure and it's on. So very easy. Obviously, if you have a really thick rail, it might get tougher. Like I have a Scar 16, that rail is very like thick, and I have a laser up top and minimal rail space up top. So I run the pressure pad on the side. And again, the issue with on the side could be when you sling it down, if it's applying pressure on your body, you can ND your light or your laser, which means it's on. There are also caps you can buy. I don't have a lot of experience with any caps. I've heard mixed reviews, like some of them can melt from the concussion of the break, or it could break from, you know, the muzzle device, just blasting it out the side. So just know whatever you put on there, you got to test it, test your lights, test whatever you do, because not everything holds up. But yeah, as far as light goes, and you'll notice this, you have a lot of barrel to get past. It's still bright enough to get past it pretty well, but you have a shadow. So the further behind whatever your light is, it's going to cast a shadow. So, but this one tends to get out pretty far. I think when I did the video, I was still able to see 100 to 200 yards with this fairly decently and hit the target. All right, so 50 yards first. Okay, now 100 yards. 100 yards is a little bit more visible. And again, we have a target at 200 yards, but this one, I still cannot see past that 100-yard mark. So that 200-yard target is still in the dark. But again, 1,000 lumens, 50,000 candela, let's bump it up. But yeah, some of them, when we're talking lights, you have candela and you have lumens. Lumens is like the horsepower, candela is like the torque. Lumens just means it's bright, candela means it has throw, so it's more concentrated out to distance. I would say the best ones for that would be the newer Surefires, Cloud Defensive, or Mod Light. This one, it's still powerful, and in the video I talk about all the numbers, but it's not as powerful as some of those. So my first AR here, the one that I've been working on for years, I've done videos on this too. This one's running a Surefire Turbo. And again, this I think is about $350-ish for a turbo. It's in between 3 and 4. Now the thing with Surefire is it does not come with a pressure pad. You have to buy that separate. That's like another $100-something. So if you do a full Surefire pressure pad light setup, it ends up being more than the Mod Light or the Cloud Defensive. But they are good. This is the new turbo, so it has a very powerful throw. I think it's like 700-ish lumens or something like that. But it has 100,000 candela, so very far throw. You can see 200 yards with this, no problem. I was used to the recoil on the SCAR. Going from the SCAR to the AR is different. So this thing lights up that 100-yard target way clearer. All right, now 200. Oh, I see the 200-yard target. It is out there. I'm gonna put my magnifier on. There we go, 200-yard hit. Let's see if I can go again. That was a hit, right? So 3 hits at 200 yards. That is clear. And you'll notice I'm not running a pressure pad on this. My issue with Surefire pressure pads, and I have this issue with a lot of mine, is with some of their pressure pads, they will flicker. So when the light is on, like you notice it flickering between brightness. It's not supposed to do that. I don't know how much they'll really warranty that, because I've tried putting different pressure pads on different lights and I fixed the issue before that, but then it comes back later. That's just a Surefire thing from what I know. So yeah, that sounds pretty terrible for a $400 light setup or $400 or $500 light setup, but that just is what it is, which it shouldn't be, but they are a name brand company, so I think it's something that us gun people have all gotten used to, which again, I don't think it's appropriate, because I don't have any flicker issues with my Streamlight. I've never seen any of my Streamlights flicker. Now I have seen them get dimmer, so when the battery's dying they get low, but as far as flickering goes, I mean, this one will strobe if you hit it twice. It's just not a thing with any of my other lights other than Surefire. So with this being one of my main ARs, again, this is my very first AR, I've put a lot of money into it. I went with the Surefire Turbo, but I'm like, you know what? If I'm gonna put this high power light on there, I don't want to kill the potential power output with the pressure pad, so I'm just running the button. And then even if I run it, let's say left-handed, or let a left-handed person shoot it, this rail is small enough where I can still wrap my thumb around and hit the light. So if I'm shooting like this, I can still hit the light, it's not an issue. But on the left side now, I would just use my thumb. So that's how I have that one set up. Again, you're gonna have to just play around with how you like them. I also like Surefire for their mounting system. This one's a pick rail mounted one. You can also do M-LOK. I think they all come with both options to mount it to a pick rail or an M-LOK rail. And then you can swivel it depending on what angle you need and then tighten it. Now, I've heard people have issues with it staying tight. I have not had that issue. All my lights, once I lock them into a certain position on the rail, they do not move. So I don't have any issues with that. The only issue I have is with various pressure pads. So yeah, that one's pretty solid and I like it. And then it's just a 1-unit piece. And then when we're talking about lights, I also want to talk about batteries briefly. So another thing with modern lights and putting the money into a modern light, I like rechargeable batteries. It is a night and day different between buying CR123 batteries and burning through these things like all the time. So many of my guns, optics and lights take them that I do have a bunch, but it's like $2 a battery. So when you're replacing multiple a month, it just gets annoying. When you buy a modern Surefire, Mod Light, Cloud Defensive, if you buy, I think some Streamlights are coming with rechargeable batteries, I'm not sure. But most modern lights, like this is a Mod Light, this one has a Surefire battery in it. I really am liking that they come with rechargeable batteries. So this is an 18650 battery. This is a CR123. You'll hear a lot about dual fuel lights, and that means they can either take CR123s or the rechargeable one. So if it takes an 18650 battery and it's dual fuel, it'll take this or 2 CR123 batteries. And I tend to keep these in most vertical grips or pistol grips. I always have extras on me, but 18650 is king. Now, there are different types. This is not an 18650. This is a 21700. This is a bigger battery for one of my Mod Lights. But one thing about Mod Light or Cloud Defensive batteries versus Surefire, these ones, you can have a charging block, which I think is way better than Surefire's way of doing it. So with this, it won't fit in this one, it'll fit right here. You just pop this in, and as long as it's plugged in, it's charging. With Surefire, it takes a cord, like just a standard USB cord or USB-C, no, it's USB cord, and you have to plug it in the side. It works. It's just kind of annoying to have to plug in multiples of these into power strips, where when I have my Cloud Defensive lights or my Mod Light batteries, I just lay up two or three of these together, charge all the batteries in a row, and it's very nice. Because again, these, you need an individual cord per battery. So yeah, there's pros and cons of both, but I tend to like my Mod Light or my Cloud Defensive batteries more as I drop it. But the Surefires work good. And anything is better than having to buy batteries. Yeah, rechargeable is way better. So yeah, we talked about the Surefire, we talked about Cloud Defensive. Here's a Mod Light. It's set up very similar to everything else. oops, if I can get to it. I'm running the pressure pad up top. Now this one has a unity button. So I like the unity buttons or the mod buttons where it's just this tiny little thing and it's just momentary. So if I apply pressure, it's on. You notice it's a very powerful white light. With the unity buttons and the mod buttons, I don't notice any flickering like I do Surefire pressure pads. Now with this one, this has a Surefire tail cap on here. It doesn't have the unity tail cap. And you can buy, what's nice about Mod Lite is a lot of them are Surefire compatible. So you can replace heads, you can replace the battery caps, the cords, the pressure pads, like you can swap all of it. When you do Cloud Defensive, it's all proprietary. I think Streamlight is proprietary to itself, so that means you can't interchange them. But Mod Lite you can interchange with Surefire for the most part. And then I think there's Malkov, which I don't have any personal experience with that. I think you can do that with those as well. Arisaka, you can buy Arisaka bodies. There's pros and cons of all of it. I don't know the differences between everything. I'm just telling you. I like my Mod Lite and I tend to run a lot of Surefire tail cap stuff. So that is the nice thing. And then what's cool about Mod Lite is a lot of their heads are interchangeable. I think I can even put this head on their pistol light. So a lot of it's pretty interchangeable and I like that. But yeah, output wise, it's very strong. Button wise, my mod buttons and my unity buttons, they're very good. So, and then you can run a little bit smaller lights depending, like these are full size lights that take the 18650s. They do smaller ones that still have pretty strong output, and those take a CR123 style battery, so like this. But I think the rechargeable version is the 18350 instead of the 18650. Those are pretty good too. I just don't have any of the small ones. I tend to just throw bigger lights on all my guns. But yeah, I really like them. Cable management's also a thing. So this is a pretty short cable. You could zip tie them, you could attach them to the gun, tape them, whatever. But yeah, they're pretty rock solid. The mounting has not come off on me. Now with cables, you are more likely to get caught on something, unlike a traditional pressure pad or just running the light on there. I haven't done anything crazy enough to have that happen yet. But yeah, it's just another thing to consider. Everything is just about, you know, you take in information, you do with it what you will. But this is how I like to run mine. And then let's say you have a super short setup. You can also get creative and just use a pistol light. So this is my Daniel Defense PDW. Very tiny rail. I could add a light on the right side and run a pressure pad up top, but I'm like, you know what? I want to try something different. So I kept this very streamlined. There's nothing hanging off the sides. So I ran this Surefire X300, which is normally a pistol light. Now with this, it's still ambidextrous because with theirs, you can apply pressure from the back from either side, or you can throw the lever down and it'll stay on from either side. So I like that with them. So the idea behind this is I can just apply pressure from the back with my thumb, or I can just straight up turn it down and it'll stay on. So that's just another option. You can also do it with Streamlight TLR1s, which are the Streamlight version of this. And I would say it's pretty good. Now it sits a little bit taller, so you'll notice I have my optic on a riser, but again, just another way you could set it up. And then let's say you're not trying to put a light on an AR, you're trying to put it on something else. I'll show you another setup I have over here. So this is my FS2000. You'll notice I'm running a Streamlight on here. And this is kind of one of those things where I was telling you about the top rail. So I would not want to run a light on the top rail or a pressure pad on the top rail because this rail is absolutely insane. It's just not possible or not feasible. So I still run the light on the right side, and then I run the cable underneath, and then I'm running the pressure pad on the left here. Now, the way I have it set up, my sling is not in the way. I still have a vertical grip on here, so I would just hold it like this. And when I shoot, it's no issue. Put the toilet bowl down. But yeah, it's no issue. And then I would just apply pressure on this. I can keep it momentary, which this light is dying, you'll notice. So see how it's not flickering, it's just very low. Yeah. So I have momentary, or I have constant on, and it's not in the way. So again, you can get a little creative. They're either going to mount Picatinny or M-LOK. That's about as creative as you need to be. You can buy key mod stuff too if you have a key mod rail, but just find a way to mount it Picatinny or M-LOK and run it in a way that the light is not in the way of, you know, I can still take this off to replace the batteries. If I had a suppressor, I can take the suppressor on and off. Because if you mount it too close to a muzzle device with the suppressor, it'll be in the way of taking the collar off, like my Surefire suppressors. So I have everything set up to where if I need to take something off the gun to clean it, or to replace the suppressor, or to change batteries, I don't have to take the entire light off to do it. So that is how I do it. And then cables, I don't run my cables in the front of anything, because if you had to slam it on a barrier or anything like that, you don't want the cable to get torn up. So this cable is behind the vertical grip here. It's not taped or anything because I also have to worry about my charging handle. But it's not in a spot where I think it's going to get caught. Now, something you could definitely hook it from right here and rip it out. But again, I'm not doing anything crazy enough to where that's ever been an issue as of yet. So another thing, while we're on the subject of lights, one of the best like $60 investments you could do is buy a Petzl headlamp. I use this probably more than anything. It's also good to have a handheld light because let's say, you know, it's dark at your house, power is out, you need a light. You don't want to go clear the house with your gun. Now you can have your gun, but you know, if you have kids, family, whatever, you're not pointing a light at them on your gun. So that's not a light, that's a weapon that you're pointing. So it is good to have a dedicated handheld or a dedicated headlamp. And I use this the most. I do a lot of like 50Ks or ultra marathons where it's at night and you have to have one of these. Also, spend the extra 30 bucks, get the rechargeable batteries, because these things take 3 AAA batteries if you don't have this rechargeable battery. Just buy the rechargeable battery, it's worth it. I don't even have a spare. I've had this light for probably 5 years. I don't even have a spare of these. I just keep AAA batteries with me. And yeah, it's never had any issues. I've ran this thing like it's meant to run like for 36 to 48 hours. I've used this for 3 different 24-hour events and then other like 50Ks and 12-hour events. So yeah, very useful. And then last year, I think it was last year, I went to my buddy's shoot and it was meant to be like a low light to night shoot. A lot of guys were running nods and night vision and stuff. I didn't have that at that time. So I ran this headlamp with my Q Honey Badger. I'll show you guys a picture right here. So again, you just got to be resourceful. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let lack of night vision stop me from having fun with a bunch of guys, but I definitely looked kind of lame next to all of them with their nods, and then they have to turn them off when I'm running my stage. So yeah, headlamp is also a good thing. So start off with the $60 headlamp, then work your way up to whatever else. But I think that kind of covers everything that I wanted to talk about. If you have questions, comment down below. I'll try to get back to you guys. Other than that, if you're wanting to know how to sling a gun, I've done videos on that. Let's say quickly, if you're curious about optics, just mount your optic to the top of the receiver rail, not your handguard rail, the top receiver itself. You don't need to go past that for any optic out there, in my opinion. So yeah, that's optic placement, light placement. I've done videos on sling placement. So I'm trying to slowly knock out all the topics. If you guys have questions or videos you want me to talk about, comment down below because I'm trying to do a video for you guys every single day of the week. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for tomorrow's video.